You're listening to Knoxville's Morning News on Talk Radio 92 FM, 92.3 FM, 760 AM on the FMT Insurance Studios. Good morning, Mr. Daniel Herrera, who's our special guest this morning.
Hi, Elaine. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having
me
on.
All right, so for those folks that aren't sure who you are, can you introduce yourself for them?
Sure. Yeah, so my name is Daniel Herrera. I go to the Duncan School of Law. I'm about to graduate in December, sit for the bar in February.
Your mom's proud, right?
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, yeah, she's proud. I mean, I'm the first to go to college, first to go to law school. Both my parents are immigrants, so I was actually born in New Jersey. So I guess you can say I'm an immigrant, too, because it's like a whole new state up there. That's like a whole new country up there. You know? But I've been super involved in
my sister says that about Camden.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, I'm not stepping a foot in Canada. I'm up from the Hoboken area.
There you go. Yeah. Hoboken.
I've been extremely involved in politics. You know, I've worked in Congress. I've worked on campaigns from the presidential level down to the municipal levels. And I just love being involved. So, yeah.
So, one thing I just wanted to touch base with you on is I know that you comment a lot, and you have been involved a lot, and you're starting to become more involved here locally, which we definitely appreciated. And I know that you worked on Congressman Burchett's campaign. Right. So what specifically did you help with that campaign?
Yeah, so I also, I didn't just knock doors for now Congressman Burchett. I did a lot of media appearances for him. I've represented him at a lot of forums. I've represented him on radio, on TV. So pretty much just trying to. But now we had a big push in the primary, so that was really much what my goal was. Once we got past the primary, I think we did fairly well in the general election. I mean, we were 30 points over Rene Hoyo. So, but yeah, I mean, I was his. I did some of his ground game, but I did some of his media as well.
Well, fantastic. All right, so yesterday and kind of some last week, obviously we had the Democratic debates, and we were talking about the Democratic debates. And so one of the things that we've been talking about, obviously, is illegal immigration.
Right.
And that's kind of been a huge topic for, and I believe it will be a huge topic for this campaign, for this 2020 presidential election. But one of the things that and we're going to have some guests in later that are going to talk about socialism. They've written a book about it.
That's great.
Socialism sucks is kind of their viewpoint. So we had some comments yesterday talking about that, about illegal immigration and how the Democrat Party at the debates, they seemed entirely focused on illegal aliens instead of American citizens.
Right.
So what was your perspective of that?
I think that's absurd. I mean, that's crazy to say that, we're going to focus more on illegal immigrants who are not even, supposed to be represented in this country over American citizens. Clearly you saw the pandering. I mean, you saw Cory Booker. You saw Beto O'Rourke, who I know the president frequently says Robert Francis, because that's really his name.
Yes.
He pretends to be,
I was expecting the skateboard at any moment. That's what I thought. I thought he was going to end out the, just fly by. Boy, Cory Booker gave him the side eye when he started speaking Spanish.
And I think it's because Booker didn't really expect him to do it. Booker, coming from New Jersey, Booker is a huge social media guy, and he talks Spanish a lot on like Snapchat and Facebook. So when Beto O'Rourke said it, I think it took him by surprise, because he was probably like, I was supposed to be that guy,
he stole his thunder, didn't he?
Right, but I mean, it wasn't even good Spanish. I mean, Marco Rubio even called him out at the.
Oh, did he really?
Oh yeah, he was like, they didn't have an answer in English or in Spanish. I mean, you have to see the clip. It was just so good. But I mean, they're clearly pandering to a voter base that is actually, growing by the year, though.
Right.
The Hispanic vote is actually very influential. We saw a massive turnout for them in 2018. We're probably going to see a bigger turnout for them in 2020. Immigration tends to be something that they're concerned about, but I'll tell you what, I think more Hispanics are worried about job creation, making sure that there's food on the table, that they can pay the rent or their mortgage.
So they're normal people.
Right, they're normal people. But
that everybody, I mean, that's the same thing that everybody, those kitchen table issues are, it doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter what, box you check off.
Right.
That's exactly what everybody's concerned about,
Right.
you know?
And the Democrat Party is just making this huge fear into the Latino community too, because there's a lot of misinformation too. They're pushing this narrative that, Donald Trump, whether you're illegal or not, is going to kick you out of this country and send you back wherever you're from. I mean, that's just not true. It's just so false. And then the left makes this huge deal of ICE, trying to make it seem like there's some terrorist organization. They're really just law enforcement,
Right.
And there are some bad people in this country that really shouldn't be here and that are illegal.
Well, isn't that why some people are trying to escape some of those countries? Is they are trying to get away from some of the bad people?
You're right, but at the same time, is America really going to take in everybody from every country that has an issue? We can't afford to do that. Why are we more focused? I'm not saying we are, but why is the Democrat Party more focused on taking care of illegal immigrants when we have an actual homeless problem here and a veteran problem here that we're not fixing first? If you're a veteran or if you're somebody who's struggling, right, who's making, they're living paycheck to paycheck, you have to ask yourself, why is it that they're not concerned with you when they're really concerned about illegal immigrants?
No, and I agree on that. And this is one of the things too. Is Candace Owen? She tweets a lot.
I love Candace.
And she's got a great voice for her community, the Black community. Right? She's obviously a Black female, and so she tweeted out. She said, instead of sanctuary cities for illegals, why doesn't California focus on creating sanctuary schools for the 75% of Black boys who can't pass a basic literary test?
Right.
And she says, oh, I know. They don't want Black people reading. Can't turn us into Democrat voting mules if we're educated.
Yeah. Look, I love Candace because she just says how it is.
She lays it out there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, there really isn't somebody like that on the Latino side, but there is something I want to point you to. Have you heard of the Walk Away campaign?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they really started after 2016. And if you go on their Facebook page, right, because there's an actual group that's Walk Away campaign, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of Latinos who are out there, telling their story of why they're leaving the Democrat Party. And I think we're going to see a dramatic shift in favor of Donald Trump in 2020 from the Latino groups.
Well, and see, that's the thing for some folks that don't know what the Walk Away campaign is. Brandon Stroika, is that how you pronounce his name?
Yes.
He's a gay activist and huge in the believed liberal policies and Democratic Party, and he kind of had a moment where he said, wait a second, they're not talking to me, they're talking at me. And he walked away from the Democratic Party and kind of started that campaign. And then he started to get huge amount of backlash, a lot of hate, a lot of, he really saw kind of the, how we've been talking about censorship for conservative voices. Exactly. He really saw kind of that ugly side of liberalism and has, I think it's really only, kind of pushed him more into showing that side and saying, look, why can't I just have a different perspective or a different viewpoint? Why can't somebody else just have a dissenting voice or at least just a different perspective without being just like we saw with Andy Ngo yesterday or actually this weekend in Portland where he was physically assaulted to where he's hospitalized for bleeding on the brain. And so we see that too. So that's where I think that a lot of people are, like you said, overlooking Latino community that you have those kitchen table issues just like everyone else. You don't want to you'd like to be able to choose your jobs, your schools, your healthcare issues. Those are choices that you'd like to make, but you'd also like to do it in a way that aligns with our American values.
Yes.
And I think they're overlooking that.
And Democrats expect it to go blue. It's not going to stay blue for them. So another kind of thing that a lot of people sometimes, and I don't know if it's stereotypical or not, but they want to say that a lot of times Latinos are Catholic, and so they're very religious. Yeah. So I think sometimes that gets overlooked too, that there are very moderate, very conservative people in the Latino community. I've been making the argument that Latinos are actually really conservative, and really for three arguments. They're very religious people. Second, they care about their family very much, and third, they have a very dedicated work ethic. Those three alone are our conservative principles. Now, why are Latinos, Democrats though? Is because there has been this huge misinformation as to like, oh, you're brown, so you're a Democrat, you know. So, like I said, my parents are both immigrants, and when they came here, they came here legally. They did everything they had to do, and when they settled in New Jersey, it was kind of expected to them to go Democrat. So, with them not really knowing the system, they became Democrat, but they just never really voted that way. They never really liked it. It really wasn't until Donald Trump, or my parents. If you think I'm conservative, you should see my mother and my father. I mean, these are people who left Latin America when the communists were starting to take over. So they came over here, and my father will tell you, you know, from the bottom of his heart, the day he votes communist is the day that he dies, and it's probably because they're using his voter registration information to vote.
Yeah, that's probably true. All right, well, listen, Dan, we've got to take a quick break.
Yeah.
If you want to call in on the Crown Plaza call-in line, 865-888-TALK, 865-888-8255. Come call in and join the conversation.